Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. I'm Audley Stevenson, and it's a pleasure to be here with you once again, where we continue our goal of helping you live your best audacious life ever. Now, on this bonus episode, we're going to continue to recognize and celebrate the achievements of women during Women's History Month. We've been profiling and telling great stories, and we're going to continue to do so all month long. On today's episode, you're going to hear from Lara Brown. Now, Lara's story is a great one because it's an example of what having strong will and being determined, what it's really all about. Now, in her case, Lara had to deal with the reality of a breast cancer diagnosis. Now, being a healthy, avid runner with no family history, it came as a complete shock to her. But as we know, cancer doesn't discriminate, nor does it care who you are. So Lara had some tough choices that she had to make. And it really came about, do we accept this? Does she accept this reality and do nothing about it? Or does she continue to fight and push ahead and move through this? I think this is where I'm going to stop and turn it over to Lara to let her tell the rest of a remarkable story. Enjoy. Lara Brown was an avid marathon runner when she received the unexpected diagnosis of having breast cancer. She immediately underwent chemotherapy treatment, and it was suggested at this time that she stop running and take up walking instead during her treatments. That's when things changed. The single mother of two made the conscious decision to write her own story and began the grueling training for an Ironman marathon. 16 months after receiving her breast cancer diagnosis, Lara Brown achieved her goal and became an Ironman. Lara is up next to tell her story on the Audacious Living Podcast.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Read your story. I thought it was super inspiring and super amazing, and why I thought it'd be nice to chat with you a little bit. And I guess the last 4 years or so, that's been a bit of a journey for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, crazy ride.
So let's kind of start at the beginning. Of any good story, I think the beginning of the start is a good place to do that. Let's go back. You were diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016.
Yes. So 2016, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That was May. In April, a month before, I was in Europe. I ran back-to-back marathons in Paris and Rome.
Right.
And I came home and I wasn't feeling myself. Mm-hmm. The Raptors were in the playoffs that year. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals. So working in sales and suites, it's a lot of late nights and it's high pressure, long days and late nights. So I kind of like pushed it aside and I'm like, okay, maybe it's just jet lag and tired and whatever, but there was something off. And I like deep down, I knew that there was something wrong. And then a few weeks later, I did a breast exam in the shower and I found a lump in my right breast. So there's no family history. My mom is negative for the BRCA gene. I'm the first. I was 37. Yes, came out of left field.
And again, you're living a healthy life. I mean, you're running marathons. Your lifestyle would be such that you wouldn't think that you'd be affected. But I guess that really says that people are susceptible regardless who you are.
Exactly. So, I haven't had red meat since I was 13.
Wow.
Work out every single day, train for run marathons, and boom, doesn't care.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Right?
No discrimination at all.
Not at all.
So the initial thought, kind of give me a sense of what was that when you got the initial diagnosis, what was going through your mind at that time?
I was like, oh, wow. Okay. It was crazy. I learned pretty quickly that there's sort of two roads you could go down with a cancer diagnosis. It's like you could sit and dwell on the why me, but reality is it is you.
Right.
So you got to shift your mindset and like, why not you, right? Like, why not me? Why not you? Why not anybody else? So you can't, it's easy to go down that hole, but I try to avoid that at all costs.
And Lara, it's a very natural feeling. I mean, no one would hold it against someone if they went down this place, because again, all the emotions that it's stirring, and so I mean, that's totally understandable. I think the thing
100%.
is not staying there. That's what because we're gonna get there eventually. Maybe you might go and come back even, but not to stay there or recognize when you're there and knowing the things you got to do to push yourself forward.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, go ahead. What was it? I was gonna say the next step for you.
So after I was diagnosed, I had many doctor's appointments, and I had surgery 2 weeks later to remove the lump. I was lucky. So stage 1 diagnosis, and it lymph node negative. So it was really just contained. I caught it really early, but I was triple positive, which means that it's the hormones in my body fed the tumor.
Okay.
And I was positive for this protein called HER2, which makes cancer grow aggressively. So if I didn't catch it, like I was lucky. So then I was told I needed chemo. So I had 12 rounds. So chemo started. So diagnosed in June, surgery July, and then chemo started in August. So that's when I met. So lots of doctor's appointments, and I met one of the radiologist. And so every single doctor's appointment, I would always ask, can I run? And they were like, or when I had surgery, it was how long before I could run again?
Right.
And everyone's like, okay, sure, like 2-3 weeks, whatever, do your thing. And when I met my radiologist, she said to me, cancer patients come in with like energy like this,
okay,
and it drops to here. So she goes, I'm not a runner, and I don't know, but like you should probably just stop running and start walking.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, no.
Right.
So I left her office that day, and I'm like, here we go, Ironman. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
And it's important just to kind of put in context, how much running were you doing prior? So it's not that you just decided you were going to run one day. This was part of your lifestyle, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So when I was in Europe in April, I did Paris one weekend, and then the next weekend I ran the Rome Marathon. So I was always a runner. I think that was marathon 4 and 5 at the time, maybe. I've done 6. Yeah, I think 4 and 5. So, or I've done 15 half marathons. Like I was always
right.
After I had my second kid, I started running and haven't really stopped. But Ironman was something always like, oh, that's just crazy. So, and I decided that day, I'm like, we're gonna do an Ironman.
And the thing to understand, the training and preparation for these types of marathons, they're no joke here, Lara. They're not at all.
No, so it's no joke at all. So I bought a bike, finished chemo. So before every chemo, so I took 5 months off of work, as you know, work for Maple Leaf Sports, and it's very public. And like, you can't get sick when you're in chemo. And so I took 5 months off of work, and I worked out every single day. So I'd have chemo I had 12 rounds of chemo, and they were on Thursdays. So I would go to spin classes before. I'd make my chemo at 1:00 on purpose. So in the morning I could go to a spin class and walk into Princess Margaret and be like, yeah, I got this. It's because it's a crazy hospital. And so I kept very, very active throughout my everything. And I really believe that helped with all the side effects. So there were 1 or 2 days I wasn't feeling well, but other than that, I just plowed through it.
And what's incredible is you oftentimes hear people who go through chemo, and I know it impacts individuals differently. It's not all the same in terms of the side effects, but certainly low energy is a big one. How exhaustion it sort of overcomes them, and so to hear that you're still going hard in training is remarkable. What kind of kept you going?
Yeah. So this is I believe me, because I talk to a lot of young moms right now who are going through cancer, and everyone has their sort of their own story, but I recognize that like mine might be a little different, but this is just how I experienced it. So what kept me going is I have two kids that I hid it from them. They didn't know what I was going through. 6 months before I was diagnosed, we actually went through a separate, like my husband and I got divorced. So it was a lot.
Sure.
And also I just, it's why not? It's like, why not me? So like, I'm going to keep doing what I love to do and until I really couldn't. So one of the biggest achievements before my Ironman was not 3 days after my 9th round of chemo, I ran the half marathon in Toronto. Yeah. So my parents were horrified. I didn't wear a watch because when I wear my watch, I know my times and I have to, your splits and like you get a little psycho. Right. So I didn't wear a watch. But every time I saw one of like they have times set up around the course, I was like calculating in my head. Yep. But that was for me, I was like, okay, yeah. And it was October. So it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So that was an emotional one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go through the chemo, you're still training while you're going, which that in itself was remarkable. The chemo comes to an end. What were things at now at that point for you?
So after chemo, they give you about 3 weeks break.
Okay.
So I actually took my kids. I was born and raised a little bit in South Africa. So I took my kids and we went away for 3 weeks. Came home and then I had 25 days straight of radiation every single day. And then January it was over. And I hired a coach that I actually went to university, an old friend from university. He's an Ironman coach.
Yep.
And that's when I started training for Ironman. It was January.
Now, you knew you were going to do this. There was no question in your mind that was...
Like once I have something, once there's something in my head, I'm like, I'm doing this because I want to prove to my doctor who told me that I should walk that like, no.
Right.
No. Yeah. This is my story. This is my journey, and we're going to end it on my terms.
Amazing.
So Ironman training, it's 9 to 11 workouts a week. So you're doubling up on a lot of days.
Right.
So a lot of like early morning, late. So and then I put my kids to bed and I'm riding my bike at like 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
But you have to you can't cram training for an Ironman. You have to follow a plan.
That's right. And how long is that training plan before the actual?
So I started. You need about 10 months. So wow. I started in January, and then my Ironman was October 7th, 2017. So I did it 16 months after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was able to cross the finish line and hear those magical words.
How does that feel? Like, I mean, I can imagine the exhilarating emotions that sort of come over you. But you think of the journey. Obviously, you talked about wanting to write your own story on your own terms. When you hear those words, you are an Ironman. Describe what that feeling is like.
So 3 of my best friends were there, and my parents came, and like it was just a hot mess. Very emotional. Like it's all I wanted to hear was running down that red carpet at the end. It's a long day. It's a very long day, and they're very smart at Ironman because the course loops.
Okay.
So when you're running, so the marathons last, and when you're running, you could hear the finish line. So you hear everyone else like, so and so you're an Ironman, and so you're an Ironman. So you're like, that is going to be me. And so there's nothing like that 30-second run down that red carpet. And then it was amazing. So the day before the Ironman, there's like a whole like opening ceremony.
Yep. And
the guy was like, if this is your first Ironman, you have to think about what does your end look like? Are you going to just run through? Are you going to jump down the red carpet? So I ran and my hands were like this. I'm like a complete lunatic, but I'll never forget that moment. And so I did one last year. So after I finished, I'm like, I can't wait to do this again.
Why not?
Yes, I've done 2 full, 2 half, and then this August, right now I'm training for Mont Tremblant, which hopefully happens.
Amazing. I just going back to the finish. I just love the whole idea of visualizing what that looks like, because that's powerful.
Yeah.
As you're sort of working towards that, what do you want your finish to look like? So if you're, waving your arms or whatever, it's yours. And again, going back to it being your story. So that's so awesome, Lara. It really, really is. You've sort of taken some valuable lessons, if you will, and from that whole experience. I wonder if you could share some of those with us.
So, I was treated at Princess Margaret, and so I try and help and volunteer for their events. This year, I'm the honorary chair of a ride called the Northern Pass.
Okay.
So I try and give back. Princess Margaret is such a incredible place, and I've seen firsthand the research that they do actually does help people, and so that's kind of I just want to give back and help them as much as possible. But in terms of other stuff, it's taught me really to live, and it's so cliche, but and one of the things I struggle with, and my friends always laugh at me, is that people everyone has problems, right? Everyone has their problems, but sometimes at work I hear someone complaining about oh, his hot dog's cold. I'm like, buddy, have you ever been on the 4th floor at Princess Margaret? Because that's where everyone has chemo. You need to do a field trip to get your reality in check.
Right.
And then a friend of mine was like, you just have to his problems are his problems and your problems are your problems, and they're different. And that was something I struggled with a lot, because also no one, when you're finished all your treatment,
mm-hmm.
you're let go. Okay, bye.
Right.
And you come in once a year for a checkup, but you've had all these appointments and doctors and you're watched and this, and every week you're there, and then boom, it's all over, right. Which is so great. But then it's you're not, there's no, it's going back to normal anymore. It's a new normal. And it's not the same as it was before. And yes, I went through this, but I still take medication every day. I have 11 scars. 2 years ago, I had my ovaries removed, so I'm in menopause. There's all these little things. So I don't like the word survivor. Because you don't end and it's gone forever, because it's never gone. You have checkup. I just hate that word. So, it's just, and then I try, so through Princess Margaret and their posts, people reach out to me all the time. So right now I'm talking to 3 incredible, they're in their 30s. So they're a little bit younger than me, that are all going through it now. And it's to have someone and know someone on the inside. I had that. My sister-in-law's best friend had breast cancer when she was 37. So she was my sounding board.
Yes.
So it's important. So I try and be that person for these girls.
Yes.
So you meet these women, and we've never actually met in person, especially now with COVID, but sure. We can't wait to one day fly somewhere on a girls trip.
That's amazing. And I think what it also does, you serve an inspiration to people, right? That are, because you think of any sort of challenge you go through in the very beginning, there's all sorts of emotions, there's all sorts of questions, uncertainty, concerns, fears, whatever. And to have someone that was at that exact same place, but is on the other side, there's tremendous strength and encouragement in that.
Yeah. So a lot of the times, oncology nurses are the best, most angels in life, but sometimes they tell you only the negative things. So you're going to have chemo and you're going to feel like shit and you're going to blah, 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 blah. So my advice when I talk to these girls before they start treatment is this is your story. That all that shit is noise. Write your own ending. This is, if you feel good, take advantage of those days and do what you love to do. And if you feel bad, great, stay in bed. But this is your journey, and just do it your way, because there's all so that's, and I'm very passionate about that, because don't let anyone tell you what to do, really. And cancer is it's a little choose your own adventure-ish.
Right.
You know, you go to this opinion, you don't like this opinion, you go to this opinion, you kind of like, but yeah, be an advocate for yourself and choose your own adventure here.
That's I think those are great words. Would you say that's sort of the number one sort of thing you've taken from this experience, or is there something else that has resonated with you?
So I had a friend who the why me and the why not me, and she's like, her dad went through a stroke when he was like, she's been through trauma also, and the whole why not me, every day I was like, okay, why not me? This is me. Like, what am I going to do today? Let's go for a run. Let's go for a ride. Let's like go in the pool. And that kind of got me through it. And hopefully it's a life lesson for my kids, quite frankly. And then also, like, if you have a goal and you want to do something, don't let anyone stop you. Like I did an Ironman 16 months after I was diagnosed with fucking cancer. And so like, okay, like you could do it. If you want something that badly, go and get it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate you sharing your story. Like I said, when I came across the story, I was just immediately inspired, because I think these are sorts of stories that we need to be sharing with one another. And first I'll applaud you for your journey, but also sharing it, because that's where the true power lies, and you're experiencing that now with your group. And I'm sure you're seeing, your words of encouragement, what it's doing for those individuals. So there's great power in us continuing us to do that. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to chat with you today, and so thankful you took the time. And again, thank you for doing this.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you for having me. I hope it inspires someone to just do what you want to do and write your own journey. It's your story.
I think that's a great way to close, writing your own journey.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. We'll write our own journey. Thanks so much, Lara, for doing this. This is awesome.
No problem. No problem.
Back we are here on the podcast, and I want to shout out Lara and say thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story of determination and desire and strong will. And congratulations are certainly in order for you achieving your goal of being an Ironman. The grueling nature of those competitions isn't easy, nor is it preparation for one. So to know that you're able to achieve your goal in the face of so much adversity is absolutely amazing. And again, I want to say thank you for being on the podcast and sharing your story. See, here's the thing. If Lara had given up and decided that she wasn't going ahead with it, nobody really would hold it against her, considering her circumstances. But that's not the story that Lara wanted to write. And I'm so glad that it isn't that at all, and she didn't. So again, the inspiration is so amazing and so appreciative, and I really hope the listeners have taken from her story and thought about how that determination can be used in their everyday lives. I'd encourage you, Lara, to keep telling your story, keep spreading your message, keep positively infecting as many people as possible. Hey, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, you can do so by heading over to thebestaudaciouslife.com, entering your email, and you'll be alerted every time new content comes out. We're always pumping out good stuff and eager to share. You can get it to your inbox directly. As to our listeners, as always, I appreciate you for being here on the podcast. Thank you for your ongoing support of the Audacious Living Podcast. It really is appreciated, and I can't thank you enough. That's the end of the show. So until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.